Good afternoon to all the participants. Welcome you all for the day 4 session. Before moving on to the session, kindly mute all your mics to avoid interruptions. Today we have two speakers for the day 4 and they are going to give us a very good, informative and wonderful session. Now I'll introduce Professor Kavita, Vice Principal, Ganga College of Nursing. She is going to present a topic on role of bladder irrigation in urology procedure. Next to her, Ms. Jnana Pushpa Mangai, Professor, Ganga College of Nursing. She is going to present a topic on nursing management of patient with urinary incontinence and retention. In case if you have any doubt in between, kindly drop your message in the chat box. We will get back to you after the session. Before moving on to the session, again a kind request, please mute all your mics. Thank you. Now I am handing over the sessions to Professor Kavita. Good afternoon, ma'am.
No, yes. Hi nurses and students. Hope you all are comfortable to listen my topic, that is role of bladder irrigation in urology procedure. I pay respect to all the nurses who are working in hospital settings. Belated Happy Nurses Day wishes to all of you. And I am happy to meet all my nursing students actively participating in this CNE Curie session and energetically asking questions, clarifying their doubts during this lockdown period also. Keep up your spirit. And coming to me, I am a Professor Kavita, Vice Principal, Ganga College of Nursing. I am a teaching professional, so I gathered many relevant informations and references related to role of bladder irrigation in urology procedures. Hope you all seen this type of patients and taking care of patients with bladder irrigations. The word comes from, it is the bladder irrigation is nothing but, so commonly you have heard that irrigation, it is a common word, general word. What is irrigation? You know that in agricultural industry, the watering into the paddy field by means of different channels, that is called irrigation. So by comparing that general term, we are using in this medical term that is called bladder irrigation. This is a picture shows as the patient is receiving this continuous bladder irrigation. So before going to the topic, I want to review this bladder. What already Madam Bhavani has taken this. What is bladder? What is a composition of? So I want to review quickly what is bladder. Bladder consists of it has two ureteric orifice and one third internal urethral orifice. So three formed as trigone. So it only helps to receive the urine, to store the urine and able to expel the urine with the help of receptors. So once the stretching muscles, detrusor muscles expels the urine, so through urethra it excretes as a urine. So it is a moist and dark and favorable environment to multiply the microorganisms more. That is why, because why I want to stress this multiply of microorganisms in this favorable environment, because one of the possible urinary tract infections with the help of bladder urine stasis. So it is related to the bladder irrigation, that's why I want to mention here. Coming to the point, what is bladder irrigation? It is a process of flushing out or washing out the urinary bladder with a specific solution, that is continuously the flow of solution is on flow or sometimes intermittently can be administered. So what are the purposes of this bladder irrigation? Why we have to administer this bladder irrigation? So we have to follow this mnemonic, that is CBI-PH. So pH of urine, you know that. That is why with the help of pH, I have formulated mnemonic. That is C indicates cleaning and clot. So what is cleaning and clot? We know that bladder lining may consist of mucus, debris, and inflammatory cells and tissues. Okay, so a lot of inflammatory mediators can be released because of the injury to the lining. So all these deadly tissues can be washed out from the bladder irrigations. And clot formation, it is important thing because of related to urological procedures and prostate procedures. Commonly occurs the clot formation because of the rupture of some blood vessels, and it's difficult to maintain the hemostasis by the surgeons. So that is invisible blood vessels injury. That is why clot formation is common. So that is why we want to remove the clot from the bladder. So it should not be as converted as emboli, because this thrombus can be converted as emboli. It can be dislodged into the many parts. So that we have to prevent that complications too. Then another one is bleeding. Bleeding, as I said, if any injury to the blood vessels, minute blood vessels, the bleeding is common. So it helps to form as a tamponade to prevent this bleeding vessels. And I indicates infections. So the urinary tract infection is more common because of the favorable environment, moist and dark place of bladder. So it can multiply the microorganisms because of the urinary stasis of urine, because next class you are going to see the retention of urine, what complications are possible after retention of urine. So the stasis of urine can cause the infections, microorganisms increases, multiplies, and it also can cause as a clot formation. Then P indicates patency. Patency is nothing but you have to, because if for urinary retention, for urinary incontinence, you're inserting the indwelling urinary catheters if the patient is confined to bed. So that indwelling urinary catheters, you have to maintain the patency, because then only the patency of catheter only can enhance the flow of urine to the urinary bag. So for that, you have to maintain the patency of the tube. For that, if any tip of the catheter, it is obstructed by any clot, so we have to remove that clot. Then only you can enhance the patency. Then H indicates heat application and healing process. What is heat application? Sometimes for the inflammatory process, we have to administer the heat form, moist heat form, and some medications form we have to introduce to heal the process of the inflammation. So this CBI pH you have to follow as a purpose of bladder irrigation. Next, we'll come to the indications of bladder irrigation. 4 important indications. First one is acute urinary retention. Second one is hydronephrosis. Third one is hygienic care. Fourth one is surgery. So acute urinary retention, because of incomplete emptying of bladder and indwelling urinary catheter for the patient, that is bed-bounded patients are there. So because of that, long-term use of indwelling catheter, so it can cause some urinary disturbances inside the urethral lining, injury. So that for that, many organisms can create and multiply, and this also can cause injury to the blood vessels. Second one is hydronephrosis. Why hydronephrosis develop? Hydronephrosis is nothing but if bladder consists of lot of urine, if it is more stasis in the bladder, it can cause vesicoureteric reflux, that is backflow of urine from the bladder to the ureter, and ureter can become a hydroureter. Hydroureter can become to the backflow of urine to kidney, so it can cause hydronephrosis. So for prevention of this hydronephrosis, we have to go with this bladder irrigation. And another one important thing is hygienic care. Hygienic care for removal of all pus materials, debris, inflammatory materials, and all lining deadly tissues we have to remove out. And we have to make the bladder is clean. Then surgery. The important topic is our surgery, that is role of bladder irrigation in urology surgery, followed by urology surgery or prostate surgery. Surgeons are this procedure or carried out these procedures from theater itself, because during the surgical procedures, as I said earlier, the clot is easily can occur, minute clots, because of the injury to the blood vessels. So that is why we have to remove the blood clot, because this blood clot can lodge it in tip of the catheter, can obstruct the urine outflow. So that is very important information, a serious thing. We have to remove the minute clot in the tip of the catheter. Next, we'll go to complications, also common, because we have seen the purpose and indications of bladder irrigations. The complications also common. We have to consider, as a nurse, we have to look other part also, because complications, it can also cause tissue trauma, it can also cause urinary tract infection, it can also cause spasm of bladder, it can also cause bladder rupture. Why tissue trauma is common? Because if you insert the indwelling catheter, gently we have to insert the indwelling catheter. If you move mildly, also it can cause injury to the lining of bladder. So this can cause tissue trauma. So for this indwelling catheter, catheterization is important. One more session you are going to have related only the specific to the catheterization. That time you will come to know how to catheterize. And urinary tract infection, because of favorable environment, the urinary stasis, clot formation, inflammatory, because of lining of injury to the, that is injury of bladder lining. So inflammatory mediators releases, so urinary tract infection is common in the bladder. Why spasm occurs? Because of the balloon of the catheter. Catheter of the balloon is, the tip of the catheter can be lodged or packed inside the neck of the urethra, bladder. So this causes spasm. And bladder rupture, if it is the patient is not able to tolerate the fluid amount, more than tolerable amount if you administered. So that also can cause bladder rupture. So these are the complications of bladder irrigation. Next, we'll come to know what are the solutions using for bladder irrigation. So already you all know the normal saline, sterile water, glucose solutions, boric acid, potassium permanganate, eccrifluin, silver nitrate, and acetic acid. Here I want to mention the important point, why we should not use the normal water for the bladder irrigation. So why we should not use, that is your question. So I want to explain here, if you administer the water, it can be absorbed by the osmosis process in the bladder. It can be diluted, the electrolytes in the circulatory system. That is why we should not administer the normal water for the bladder irrigation. So the most commonest solution using for the bladder irrigation is normal saline, 0.9%. If it is the patient salt restricted patients, you can go for dextrose solution for bladder irrigation. This boric acid, potassium permanganate, eccrifluin, silver nitrate, acetic acid, everything for the infection process, for clearing the urinary tract infections. And some more medications also can be used, that is neomycin, gentamicin, all this for treating the infection, severe infections. Example for the children, if the children are not able to tolerate the oral antibiotics, so we can administer this bladder irrigation antibiotics also into the bladder irrigation. Before going to the procedure, we have to know what are the types of bladder irrigation. So you all know students would have studied, and nurses every day in your hospital, you are doing the practice. So nurses may know the continuous bladder irrigation and the open type of irrigation also. So majorly we can classify into open type of bladder irrigation, closed type of bladder irrigation. This closed type of bladder irrigation, again it's divided into continuous bladder irrigation and intermittent bladder irrigation. So what is open, what is closed? So what is open? Open is nothing but the catheter, the drainage connection is disconnected. It is exposed to the environment and it is connected with the asepto syringe or TOMI syringe to flush out the bladder. So you have to administer the fluid with the help of syringes. That is called open type. Closed type, the drainage connection is present. Okay, you need not to remove the drainage connection, but you have to use double lumen or 3 lumen catheter to instill the fluid continuously. Okay, in the closed system, the fluid may enter into the bladder and it can drain out into the drainage bag. That is called continuous. What is intermittent? Intermittent, you have to clamp in between the installation and collection of urine. So this is the patient looks like, how the patient looks like. So irrigation solution is hanging on the port. So adjustment roller clamp is there to adjust the flow rate. And we have 3 lumen catheter. One is for inflating the balloon, one is for irrigating the solution, one is for collection of urine to connection, that is for connecting into the drainage bag. So it should be secured on the thigh, patient's thigh. So as a nurse or nursing student, so before going to the procedures, what we have to do, that is very much important. So for every procedures, we have to stick on the physician order. So you have whether the physician order is present or not, you have to follow that. So then physician advised how many drops per minute, how much amount to be infused and what type of irrigation, that you have to follow. Then you have to explain the procedure to the patient, get cooperation from the patient, clarify the patient's doubts, and give privacy and wrap the patients, cover the patient with the bedspread, and empty urinary bag and document. Why we have to empty urinary bag before bladder irrigation? Because the amount you have to accurately document in the output chart. So that is why before urine, before the procedural urine, you have to empty and that you have to record. Then you have to start the procedure. And emptying urine also, only 10 ml urine you can be left behind, because for prevention of air entry into the bag. And you have to arrange the articles and don gloving. So what type of catheters you can use? As I told you, 3 lumen catheter and double lumen catheter, and this is silicone type and latex type and rubber catheters. And these are the syringes like asepto syringe and TOMI syringe. So now our Curie hospital is using both the type of syringes. So for this is bladder lavage, washout. How to connect, you all know how to connect the urinary catheter and how to hang the flask, saline flask. So you have to ensure the saline flask should be kept ready, and the indwelling catheter is on the patency, so it's secured properly. This is secured properly on the thigh. So one is installation. This is installation side. Another one is collection. This is called inflating balloon. The video procedures I want to display for you all. Just listen. This is continuous bladder irrigation. So, donning the gloves, providing the patients exposing that particular part and or spreading another to clean the foot. You have to connect the installation. This is flow rate adjustment clamp. You have the rate. So I'll tell you in the post procedural care how much amount you have to set. This is one more procedure. Open irrigation, this is called. This is washout method, bladder washout or lavage. So this is collection cover or bag. You have to remove the drainage connection. Close it with the cannula for prevention of microorganisms entry. Then this tube can be placed in the collection sterile container. It should not be touched anywhere on the surface of the sterile container or the plastic cover. Then with the help of asepto or 60 ml syringe or Tomy syringe, you have to instill the saline. Then you have to observe the amount of urine coming out, the fluid coming out. You have to observe the color of urine also. Till the urine color is clear, you have to do this procedure. Again, you have to make sure and clean the portal side with alcohol swab, and again you can connect into the urinary bag. Next, we'll move on to procedural and post-procedural care. So procedural time, as I said, written order is important and aseptic technique is important. You have to don gloves and you have to arrange the articles perfectly on the sterile manner, sterile board, and you have to place the patient comfortably, clarifying the doubts, and you can use alcohol swab before connection and after connection of the tube. And internal irrigation is important. Fluid is administering through oral cavity is also can be clearing and washing out the bladder. And you have to instill the fluid, saline, gently you have to instill. You should not forcefully administer the fluid. Depends on the physician order rating. And for salt restricted patients, instead of saline, you can go for dextrose. And ensure that adequate stock is nearby, you keep or not. Because 2 to 3 liter of saline stock is getting over, then you have to re-administer, you have to get adequately stock. And the rate of administration 40 to 60 ml at a time, you have to administer with the help of syringe. And post-procedural care, this is the important one as a student or nurse. What you have to observe, fluid not written. If example, fluid is not coming out whatever you injected inside. So what is your suspicion? So the tip of the catheter may block. with the help of small clots. So that time what you have to do, you have to milking the tube or squeezing the urinary catheter to expel the clot outside. Or else if it is unsuccessful, you can continue the bladder irrigation to expel the clots if it is bigger size. Then irrigation must be continued until the urine is clear. Because if dark color urine is present in the urobag, so it can cause, if it is severe hematuria, you can think over. So that is why you have to administer fluids continuously. So if light colored urine, it is also indication of progression of the procedure. So it is good. Then urine is clear, that is perfect. Then color of drain completely red. If you are administering urine, there is saline, instilling saline is on flow, but color of drain is is clear color urine, and light color urine is turned to bright color again. So you have to suspect any bleeding. So if bleeding occurs, stop the bladder irrigation immediately. And what? Because this is indwelling catheter, the catheter care is important. That is sterile catheter care. Please, students, don't skip catheter care for the patient. That is the private part, because I know the students' attitude. What the students does, the catheter care, they will avoid and leave the patients. Only sponging, with the sponging will come out. So catheter care is must. Catheter care, proper catheter care can be prevent more complications. Then how to record the urine amount? Because before procedure already urine emptied the urine from the bag, so that you can record. But this continuous bladder drainage irrigations, how much you instill, how much you get out, how will you assess? So one formula is total amount of fluids infused minus total amount of urinary drainage equal to urine excreted by kidney. So if 2 to 3 ml saline and total amount of urinary drainage 1000 ml or 1 liter or 2 liter. So how much urine excreted by kidney? 2 liter urinary drainage means 1 liter by kidney. So that you have to record properly in the output chart. The documentation is important. Ethical legal document is, it speaks more. It is a safeguard material for all the nurses. Please document the procedures then and there. What you have to document? What type of irrigation? When did you get the physician order? How much amount of fluids infused? How much urinary drainage? How much urine excreted by kidney? And how long you did the procedures? Any other complications you observed during the procedures or after the procedures? So all this detailing you have to record. That is important. So I would like to quote some of the case studies, like one case study, 50-year-old male with C6 fractures, cervical, admitted in emergency department with the history of bladder stone removal. So history of bladder stone removal, he underwent the urological procedures. So suddenly he had a complaint of hematuria, suprapubic pain, discomfort while voiding. Because any urinary retention, clot retention, how will you manifest? How will you get the evidence from the patient? Manifested as suprapubic pain and severe lower abdominal pain. Okay, and difficulty in voiding. All these complaints only the patient used to tell. So that you have to remember, and you have to correlate with the any history of dysuria or hematuria or any incontinence, retention, everything. You have to extra materials you have to collect. So this is related to bladder irrigation. The patient can go for treatment advisable by the doctors. One more case study, 70-year-old female admitted in nursing home, history of hysterectomy. So the patient also has a history of complaints of dysuria, perineal pain, lab study shows E. coli. So urine tract infections followed by hysterectomy and severe dysuria present. This is also go with the patient's treatment with the help of doctors for bladder irrigation. Then I want to quote here some journal articles related to bladder irrigation. That is, one of the author in 2007 investigated whether continuous bladder irrigation, it is after the resection of prostate, would prevent catheter obstruction or not. So it can be, that is, it was conducted among the 761 patients, reported as the incidence of catheter obstruction in the 4 institutions. So in which 90% or more of patients underwent continuous bladder irrigation, was significantly lower than that in these 3 institutions, in which continuous bladder irrigation was performed in selected patients whose hematuria was severe. So the analysis showed that routine continuous bladder irrigation achieved a lower incidence of catheter obstruction. One more article, this is controversy related to bladder irrigation. Still the doctors and surgeons having the dilemma whether the bladder irrigation solutions, which one is opt. So because the most commonly they're using saline. So here the evaluation of 3 methods of bladder irrigation to treat the person with neurogenic bladder. Earlier neurogenic bladder also, for the neurogenic bladder also had treatment as a bladder irrigation. But you know, nowadays that for the neurogenic bladder, it is not recommended. Why? You know what is meaning of neurogenic bladder, atonic bladder, because of neurodegenerative diseases like multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's. So because of that, commonly the incomplete emptying of bladder and incontinence of urine, everything is common. So 89% with bacteriuria are randomized to irrigate their bladders twice a daily for 8 weeks with a 30 ml of sterile saline, acetic acid and neomycin polymyxin solution. So they were repeatedly checking the urine analysis, cultures and antimicrobial susceptibility test were performed in the baseline and weeks, 2nd week, 4th week and 8th week. So results shown that well tolerated by the patients, but the 3 irrigants had a detectable effect on the degree of bacteria or pyuria in 52% who completed the study protocol is not effective. So still the researchers are finding out what type of thing is best for the bladder irrigation. So this is a take home message. We are at the end. I hope you all are have acquired some information related to bladder irrigation. This is important best procedure to remove blood clot and to clear the urinary tract infections. So as a nurse, you have to possess knowledge, skill, attitude to take care of the bladder irrigation procedure and implement this procedure confidently and interact with your doctors. Have a good communication skill. All the best, all of you. Thank you. If any queries, you can ask.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
There is a one question. In case you have and there was no triple lumen catheter, patient has profuse hematuria, what we have to do?
Actually, you have to, there is during the procedure or after the procedure, Satya?
They didn't mention like that. They are asking, there is a hematuria.
If during the procedure, if it is severe hematuria, you have to stop the bleeding, the bladder irrigation.
Yes, ma'am. Post procedure? In case
post procedure, because until the urine is clear or light colored, you have to irrigate. If in case not, you have to stop. You have to ask the doctor, you have to depend on the doctor's advice whether to irrigate or not.
Okay. There is no triple lumen catheter, ma'am. That's what they are mentioning. Because if for irrigation we need to have a triple lumen. They are asking without a triple lumen how we can do a irrigation.
No, I'm not getting what? Three triple lumen catheters are available, right?
But in that scenario, if it is not available, what we have to do?
Because intermittent only you have to start, because you have to irrigate, you have to clamp the drainage connection, okay? Then you have to irrigate the solution with 1 lumen and release the clamp for collection of urine. And
Okay,
again you have to clamp and you have to irrigate and you have to remove.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for patient listening. Bye to all of you.
Thank you, audience, for the please. Hello. Thank you all for the patient listening. And the question raised, without a triple lumen, how we can do irrigation? The thing is, we have to remove the previous catheter. The ma'am said one answer. We have to irrigate, clamp, and then followed by you have to do a removing of a hematuria. Yes, not possible. We have to do a remove catheter, insert this elastic catheter, and you have to do a bladder wash. Rather than the irrigation, you have to do a bladder wash, and then you have to again reinsert the new catheter.
Yes. Yes, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll start. Okay. Okay. Dear delegates, very good evening, dear delegates. I think you were, excuse me. Yeah, I think, can all of you hear me? Delegates, okay, fine. So you had a session of role of bladder in irrigation, I think Kavita madam's session. After that, I am just starting. Okay, so a pleasant evening to all of you. First of all, I would like to congratulate management of Curie Hospital for arranging such a wonderful webinar series for this lockdown, during this lockdown period, especially for the nurses. I would like to congratulate as well as thank, and I am really glad to be a part of this webinar. Okay, now I'll move myself, Mrs. Pushpa. I'm a professor working in Ganga College of Nursing, Coimbatore. Yeah, so today we are going to discuss now this half an hour, another half an hour. We are discussing about nursing management of patients with urinary incontinence as well as urinary retention. Okay, so we are all nurses, so we encounter this problem day to day with the clients, not only with the urological clients. When you see old age patients as well as patients after surgery, postpartum mothers, we encounter the problem of urinary retention. So I'll be discussing the everything about incontinence as well as retention. Okay, the first thing is urinary incontinence. Okay, so urinary incontinence, it is, if you see the meaning, it is the unintentional loss of urine. Okay, three different pathologies involved in this. First of all, the inability of the bladder to hold the urine for longer time, and loss of voluntary control of the sphincters as well as involuntary passage of urine. So you have to remember, three pathological issues are involved in this. Otherwise, you can name this condition as urine leakage or urine loss. Okay, if you take the incidence, it is the cases as the age increases, the incidence also increases, and the fact is that it is very common among women comparing to men. Okay, and 80% of the urinary incontinence can be cured. Okay, that is a very good thing. So then you all of you thorough, I think, about the anatomy and physiology behind micturition and voiding. First class you had applied anatomy and physiology. So very short, I'm going to tell about detrusor muscles, which are the bladder muscles responsible for voiding, and urethral sphincters, as well as there is a nervous innervation from the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, I just remind these three things for you. Okay, then causes. If you see the causes, in women, the main causes are pregnancy and childbirth, especially after a normal delivery. Okay, the mother had 2-3 normal deliveries. Okay, there is a chance of urinary incontinence. Trauma or injury to the urethra because of any surgical intervention or because of any accident, if there is a trauma. And cystocele, it is a condition where there is infection of the bladder, and pelvic organ prolapse. Any pelvic organs, for example, uterine prolapse, cervical prolapse, sometimes bladder will prolapse into the vagina. Okay. Then menopause. After menopause, the women are they tends to develop urinary incontinence. Okay. If you see the men, the very main cause is because of the prostate gland. So benign prostate, hyperplasia, prostate cancers, and any interventions what we do for the prostate cancer, like surgical intervention, radiation therapy, which will damage the sphincters. In that case, they will develop incontinence. Okay. Some of the other general causes, you see aging, because of aging already we know, and constipation. If there is a prolonged constipation which is not treated, the patient will go for rectocele, complicated, and incontinence they will develop. And chronic and long-standing coughing, which is not properly treated, diabetes mellitus, because the complication of diabetes is neuropathy. So that will also affect the nervous innervation to the bladder. And overweight and obesity is one of the main cause, very common cause for urinary incontinence. Okay, then some of the medications which will induce incontinence: diuretics, anticholinergics, antipsychotic drugs, sedative, hypnotics. If the patient is taking these for a longer time, then there is a chance. We cannot say all the patients it will happen. There is a chance to develop. Okay, I'll move on to the types of incontinence. You see major, there are 4 main types: stress incontinence, urge incontinence, overflow incontinence, and neurogenic incontinence. Okay, stress incontinence, what will happen? The weak pelvic floor muscles. It is mainly because of weak pelvic floor muscles. Patient, if the woman is laughing or lifting, even a minor activities, no, which will cause leakage of urine, which is not normal. That is only stress incontinence. Then urge incontinence, that is mainly because of lack of neuromuscular coordination. There is a lack of coordination between detrusor muscle as well as the parasympathetic nervous innervation, which leads to involuntary contraction of the bladder muscles. Then we'll move on to the overflow incontinence. It is due to blockage of the urethra. It might be because of stone, because of any tumor or mass. The patient will develop, the urethra will be obstructed, and there is a chance of leakage of urine from the bladder. Okay. Next is neurogenic incontinence. Otherwise, it is named as reflex incontinence. So, due to impaired functioning of the nervous system, this is in cases like spinal cord injury and multiple sclerosis patients. No, most commonly we will see this neurogenic incontinence. Then signs and symptoms, physical symptoms, what the patient will express. Leaking urine during everyday activities. As I told you, even a normal activity like lifting, bending, and coughing will cause leakage of a urine. Okay. Then feeling a sudden strong urge to urinate. They cannot even wait. They want to urinate very urgently. And leaking urine without any warning or urge. And unable, they could not able to reach the toilet before that they will leak urine. And bedwetting, that is also very common. Okay. Then next we can talk about more than social issues. We can say it is emotional issues. Okay. So if anybody knows somebody is having incontinence, then they will keep them away. Okay, that is the main issue. They will not mingle. They cannot able to mingle with others. People will look them in a different way. Okay, so a lot of emotional issues and also intimacy problems will arise between the husband and wife if anyone is having the leakage of urine. Okay, that is the main emotional, so psychological factors we have to notice. Then how to diagnose the patient? As usual, you have to take a detailed history, physical assessment, cystomyogram, and electromyogram, and intravenous pyelogram, and post-void residual urine should be checked. Okay, some basic blood test also to find out diabetes to be checked, and urine culture to rule out any infection. Okay, how to manage these patients? So you know always the 3 lines of management: medical, surgical, and nursing management. So some medications like antimuscarinics, beta-3 agonist, and beta-3 adrenergic receptor stimulators. These are the medications will act by, it will relax the detrusor muscles. Okay, that is the main mechanism of action. The patient is having psychological issues, then antidepressants will be prescribed for the patients. Okay, some of the medical devices are used sometimes. Pessaries. Pessaries are nothing. It is a small plastic ring which is inserted into the vagina. So it will give compression to the urethra, so which will prevent the leakage. Okay, pessaries can be inserted, and bulking agents can be injected. Bulking agents used for very short period, for 12 hours. No, if they go to a urologist in a clinic itself, they will inject bulking agent. It is made up of collagen, so which is not harmful to the body. So they will inject through cystoscopy into the urethral sphincter, which will form a ring around the urethra, so the patient will not have the leakage. And surgical management based upon the diagnosis. Okay, based upon the diagnosis. If it is because of hernia, then hernia repair surgery is done. And if the problem is because of sphincter, there is a complete damage of the sphincter, then artificial urinary sphincters are inserted to the patient. Okay, then very important, as nurses we should know nursing management, because nursing management only will not have any side effects. So if we cure the patient with the nursing management itself, it is very well and good. So in nursing management, first of all, you have to teach the client about lifestyle changes, because most of the causes, when I explain, it is because of the lifestyle malpractices. Okay, not maintaining the good lifestyle practices. Okay, what do you teach the patient? So you instruct the patient to drink water. All of you know, all of us know, we have to drink daily 8 to 10 glasses of water. But when to drink water, the right amount of water or liquid at the right time, that is very, very important. Physically active, keep ourselves physically active, keep a healthy weight, avoid constipation. Okay, no smoking, no alcohol. Okay, fiber rich diet. These are all the things you have to teach the patient. And bladder training program. So the urologist or urology nurses will conduct bladder training program for this particular patients. It is nothing, you have to instruct the patient to keep a schedule, to maintain a schedule, like a small children know how we train them. You go to the toilet after getting up, no, immediately void. Okay, then every 4 hours you have to have the practice of voiding. Same like that, they have to regulate their voiding pattern, and they have to maintain a voiding diary. Okay, with the time when they are voiding, how much they are voiding, any irritation or any pain they are encountering during voiding, everything they have to maintain. And very important thing is Kegels exercises. So this is very common among postpartum mothers. After delivery, gynecologist will advise after a normal delivery or cesarean, whatever it is, to strengthen the pelvic floor muscles. Kegels exercises taught to the mothers. It is nothing, you just tell the patient to lie down on the floor, maintain supine position. Okay, they just have to raise the spine and the buttock at the same time, and they have to hold it for 10 counts. Then they just have to relax. Okay, so every day, morning and evening, tell them to do Kegels exercises, which will strengthen the pelvic floor muscles. And the biggest challenge for nurses is to emotionally handling the patients emotionally. So talk to them, communicate with them, develop a trust with the patient, and let them ventilate, what are the psychological issues they are having. Let them ventilate, provide emotional support. That is very, very important, more than a physical care what we are providing for the patient. So we discussed about the urinary incontinence. I am just moving on to the another condition, that is urinary retention. Okay, so urinary retention, it is a condition where the bladder inability of the bladder to empty. So the bladder cannot completely cannot empty. The urine will be stagnated inside the bladder. That is called as urinary incontinence. Urinary retention. So in case of acute urinary retention, it's a very life-threatening condition, medical emergency. We have to treat the patient as a medical emergency. And if you see the causes, obstruction of the urethra with a stone or with any mass or tumor, and the urethra is obstructed, the urine will be stagnated in the bladder. Some neurological problems and medications and weak bladder muscles. So I'll be explaining you. First of all, benign prostatic hyperplasia. So in men, that is the very main cause. When they enlarge the prostate, which is obstructing the urethra, because of that, what will happen? The bladder muscles will be thicker and thicker. Okay, as the bladder muscles thicker, bladder will lose its muscle strength and it cannot able to empty, and which is stagnating the urine inside. So which leads to retention of urine. And urethral stricture. Okay, next is urethral stricture. So it is narrowing of the urethral opening. Okay, it is mainly because of any after a surgical procedure, or if the patient have recurrent UTI, and because of this they will develop urethral stricture, okay, which will obstruct the urethra. And urinary tract stones. So all of you are well aware of this. This stone can form in any part of the urological system. Maybe it is blocking the urethra or inside the bladder, okay, which will obstruct and which will cause the problem. And cystocele is infection of the bladder. When there is an infection, what will happen? There is inflammation of the bladder. The bladder will become swollen and automatically the bladder sagging over the urethra, which will compress the urethral opening. Okay, next is rectocele. So rectocele, same like that, infection of the rectum and inflammation of the rectum. Again, it will sag. The abdominal position of the rectum will obstruct the urethra. Okay, then constipation. If the patient is having prolonged constipation, which is not treated properly for a long period of time, they may develop rectocele and they will develop retention of urine. And tumor or cancers in the bladder. Okay, any kind of tumor or cancer in the bladder or urethra, okay, which causes again obstruction and causes retention. Nerve problems mainly after a spinal cord injury and multiple sclerosis patients, they will develop retention of urine because of impaired neuromuscular coordination. Okay, then medications. The common medications which causes retention is antihistamines, anticholinergics, antispasmodics, and sometimes antidepressants. Okay, weaken bladder muscles. So as the age increases, the bladder muscles will become very weak, so which causes inability of the bladder to contract and there is retention. Okay, so how will you do the clinical assessment? So assessment, when I talk about assessment, I want to tell you nurses, assessment is a very important thing we have to perform to the patients to come to a proper problem identification or diagnosis. So you have to do comprehensive assessment, which is very important. For example, to a patient is telling retention, you cannot just look into the voiding issues. You cannot be talking about voiding problems alone. We have to we have to do comprehensive assessment. Okay, I'll be telling in the next slide. The patient will present inability to urinate, painful urgent need to urinate, and they'll have severe discomfort in the lower abdomen and bloating of the lower abdomen. Okay, you have to focus on the patient's history, any previous history of retention or any prostate cancer. Patient underwent any treatment like surgical or radiation for prostate cancer. Everything you have to note. The detailed history is very, very important. So as I told you, not only urological examination, you have to see the lower abdomen for palpation. Suprapubic area, you have to palpate for any pain or bloating. And the rectal examination, because we told fecal impaction and constipation will lead to retention. And neurological evaluation, you have to check all other reflexes also. Okay, in reflex incontinence, not only urinary system, other reflexes also will be impaired with the patients. And also you have to do pelvic and gynecological examination if it is a women. Okay, so these are all the things you have to concentrate. How to manage the patient? Initially, the very first thing is bladder decompression. Okay, we have to decompress the bladder to prevent complications. It is done by urethral or suprapubic catheterization. Okay, normally we do urethral catheterization with the help of Foley's catheter. When it is contraindicated, for example, patient underwent any urological surgery, any prostate surgery, immediate post-operative period, you cannot do urological catheterization. In that case, you have to go for suprapubic catheterization. Okay, so here, one more thing I want to insist, nurses, dear delegates, we all are nurses. So how to improve the quality of nursing practices? We have to conduct more and more studies on the clients, okay, or the system what we are using, or the interventions. So there is a term called as evidence-based practice. So more clinical studies can be conducted in these areas, and we can implement all those results. Okay, so silver alloy impregnated urethral catheters. This was a study conducted by Stephen Thompson in University of Arkansas, Canada. Okay, he proved that silver alloy impregnated urethral catheters, usage of this will reduce the UTI comparing to urethral catheters, normal Foley's catheters what we are using. Okay, sorry, next we move on to the nursing management. So what do you do? So promote, you have to assess the patient. I told you, based on the assessment findings, you have to treat. Promote fluid if not contraindicated. Okay, if the patient can tolerate oral fluids, you can very well give oral fluids to the patient. If the patient is contraindicated, for example, vomiting, some other associated thing, then you have to go for IV fluid infusion. And provide privacy, which is very, very important. So provide privacy, which will help the patient to void. And you give the patient to drink warm water before voiding, which will stimulate, and pouring lukewarm water over the perineum, and which will help, which will stimulate the pelvic floor muscles. And turning the tap sound, no, the water flow of water sound sometimes will stimulate voiding. These are all the very simple interventions, nursing interventions, but we fail to do. Okay, we know we have lot of advancements, lot of technologies. So nowadays what we do, immediately giving medication to the patient, and we are forgetting simple nursing interventions what we have learned in fundamentals. Okay, then sitz bath, you can administer sitz bath for a postpartum women, okay, after delivery and post-operative patients underwent pelvic surgeries. Sitz bath can be given. And there is a maneuver that is called as Creedy's maneuver. Okay, it is nothing. Apply gentle pressure over the suprapubic area where the bladder is situated. When you apply a gentle pressure, what will happen? The patient sometimes start voiding. Okay, it is manually, you are assisting the patient to void. And you do this maneuver if it is not contraindicated. Okay, that means there is no suture over the suprapubic area, there is no suprapubic catheter, or it should not be contraindicated. In that case only you can do this maneuver, not for all the patients. Okay, surgical management, if you see, as per the diagnosis, medical diagnosis, you have to decide, the surgeon, no, urologist will decide the surgery to be performed. And I told you, men, it is very common causes benign prostate hyperplasia. So transurethral resection of prostate will be planned for the patients. Okay, now I would like to summarize my topics. So today we have discussed two different conditions, urinary incontinence as well as urinary retention. So as I told you, nurses, we are playing a vital role in the healthcare team. Okay, I'm very glad that I would like to share you. Recently, we had celebrated Nurses Day. Okay, so the nurses, the importance of nurses, it is propagated all over the world. People are acknowledging the work of nurses as a part of health team. So we have to be involved in our care, and I want to share that you should have a good communication skill. That is very, very important. The way you talk to the patient, no, which should develop trust among the patient and you. Okay, then only the patient will ventilate and reassure the patient. More than psychological component, nowadays emotional component should be taken care with the patients. So you have to be a efficient nurses in your practice area. Okay, and I will finish with this quote: nurses are the heart of healthcare. So when you are a nurse, you know that every day you will touch a life or a life will touch yours. Okay, so one more thing I want to tell you: whoever patient you encounter, okay, maybe it is a urological problem or cardiac problem, you do a comprehensive assessment. Not only concentrate on that particular area. Okay, overall head to foot or comprehensive assessment is very, very important. Okay, and you conduct clinical studies, okay, on the patient. You can, we can check our nursing interventions by which we can improve the quality of the nursing care. Okay, thank you very much, audience. One more thing I would like to mention: there is a article in Ministry of Health conducted a clinical practice guidelines. Okay, so they have given an algorithm for treating urinary incontinence. Okay, what is the nursing management of urinary incontinence? There is an algorithm. So I have enclosed that algorithm in the website of Curie. So all participants can view that and can get benefited. So thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. I want to thank Gayatri ma'am and our principal ma'am, Dr. Esther John, for giving me such a wonderful opportunity. Okay, so thank you for patience listening, dear delegates. Okay, any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Really, it was a very informative and wonderful presentation from you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Da. Any clarification?
And there are a few questions for you, ma'am.
Yes, Da.
In case of neurogenic incontinence patient,
Yeah.
to be measured. For that patient, condom catheter and Foley's catheter is contraindicated. So in that,
Yeah.
to monitor IO chart.
Okay. They are asking about neurogenic incontinence. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So neurogenic incontinence, as I told you, it is because it is otherwise called as reflex incontinence, and mainly they will give bladder training. Okay, through physiotherapy, they will give bladder training to the patients, and you can go for suprapubic catheterization for those patients, and we have to continuously monitor the intake output chart, and even they will be regulating the fluid intake and output with the patient. And rehabilitation, bladder, it is called as bladder rehabilitation, another, that is another big chapter. So through bladder rehabilitation, slowly the patient will can regain the bladder functions. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is:
Okay.
what are non-biologic factors that impact management in women with urinary incontinence?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, I could not.
What are the
non-biologic
factors that impact in women with urinary incontinence?
Non-biological
factors.
Non-biological factors. That's what I have already told. No, other than physical. Once again, I will explain. So if a woman is having incontinence, not only physical signs and symptoms, main thing is they will have emotional disturbance. Yeah, they will have emotional distress. We can say they will have social stigma, because when you are going to, for example, a woman is having incontinence when she goes to office, she has to struggle a lot. social issues, social stigma, emotional distress, emotional trauma they will undergo, and even some issues between the partners, intimacy issues also will arise. Yes, I think I have answered her question.
Yes, ma'am. The
Yeah.
followed by other question is, for spinal cord injuries, what type of catheter to be used in order to reduce infection?
Yeah, fine. So spinal cord injury patients, usually for spinal cord injury patients only will have neurogenic incontinence or retention problem. So if it is 14 days, okay, hospital stay will be 14 days. Every Foley's catheter is advised because it is a cost effective thing, and every 14 days the catheter to be changed and proper care should be done. Then we can prevent infection very well with the spinal cord injury patients. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Whether silver alloy impregnated urethral catheter will prevent UTI?
And that's what they have proved in Canada. Actually, it is preventing the rate of urinary tract infection, but it is very costly, no? So each patient cannot afford. All the patients cannot afford the silver alloy impregnated. It is bit costly. That is the reason we are not using. If we want to keep it for a long run, if the patient is also economically sound, then the urologists or surgeons are advising silver alloy catheters. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else, da? Have
No
I
more.
clarified? Okay. Thank you very
Yes,
much, Satya. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you all participants. I hope today the class sessions were clear and it was very audible too. And followed by we'll have a few instructions for you. Tomorrow we are not having a sessions. And we are starting on Monday again, day 5. There will be a sessions. And Monday at the end of the session we will be having a evaluation through Kahoot app, and we will be sending you the link how to do a Kahoot evaluation. And through the link you have to log in and you have to answer the question. If you have any doubts or any problem in logging onto the link, please pinch on us in the mobile number which we are shared to you. And we'll give the Facebook link to your mobile and mail on your daily basis. Kindly share your feedback about the sessions. Thank you, participants.